Hi, I'm Bridgette Dutta Portman. If you'd like to learn more about my play Obsession, which is part of the Talking It Out Festival, listen to this conversation. When did I fall in love with theater? So I wasn't, as a child, I wasn't really that connected to the theater world. I did love musicals. Les Mis was my favorite. I was obsessed with it for a while. I acted in a couple of school plays, but I wasn't a very good actor, so that didn't last long. Um, but what I did like to do is I love to write, and I've been writing for as long as I knew how to write, and I wrote mostly fiction, so stories, things like that. Um, and at one point, I decided for some reason I wanted to try to write my own version of an ancient Greek play. Um, I was in my early 20s, and I guess I just kind of wanted to see what it would turn out like. And I gave it a try. I wrote, it had to do with the Trojan War, and I wrote my own version of this ancient Greek play. I wrote it in verse, and it was pretty awful. Like that first draft, I'm kind of glad has never seen the light of day, really. Um, but I realized in the process of doing that it was really fun and that I enjoyed writing dialogue. And so then I went and I did a playwriting class at UC Riverside. I was living down in Southern California at the time. And that helped me fall in love with it even more and started realizing not only is this fun, but I'm actually kind of good at it. And I then joined the Alliance of Los Angeles Playwrights. Later, I moved up to the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I live now, and got more involved. And I've just found the theater community here to be so supportive and so inspiring. And I just wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I fell in love with writing, I think, even before I knew how to write. So when I was 4 years old, I used to draw store pictures, and I would make these little books, and they were always about dogs because I love dogs. And then I would dictate, and my mother would write down like the words because I couldn't write yet. And I loved doing that. I think I made about 200 of those little books, and it was a passion. I think even at that young age, it was a passion. Um, I later tried to write longer things. I tried to write a fantasy novel when I was a teenager. It didn't go very well. Um, but in terms of thinking, I think it took me a while to realize that I was good enough to maybe do this professionally. Because for a long time I wrote and it was a hobby. And that's all I mean, it was a passion, but I always thought it was just kind of a hobby. And I didn't necessarily have the talent to be a professional writer. And it took until my late 20s to realize that, wow, this is something that I want to really do. I want this to be my life. Theater is unique in that it's such an intimate experience between the actors on stage and the audience. And I love being in the audience and having the actors right there. And it's just something a little bit different from, say, if you're reading a book or if you're watching a movie where there's the screen separating you. I love seeing the audience reaction during, say, a play of mine is being staged. I love, hearing and seeing the audience reacting. And I love the fact that every performance in theater is a little bit different. If you read a book, it's the same each time. If you see a movie, it's the same each time. But there's an unpredictability about theater that is really exciting. And I once had, for example, I actually had an actor pass out during one of my staged readings. And I'm sorry, I have kids in the background here. And he was fine. But it just kind of, it was my very first ever full-length play staged reading. And I had an actor pass out in the middle of it. And so, anything can happen. And that's kind of fun and exciting. My process is usually I'll start with an idea And that can be inspired by, something in my life or just something that I've wanted to write about. And then I will try to come up with characters. I'm kind of a character-driven writer, so I usually try to come up with the characters first, and then come up with the plot. So, what is the conflict between these characters going to be? What is the central problem of the play? And then I will usually try to make an outline. For a full-length play, it can be more of a detailed outline. For a 10-minute play, I usually, I just list out the basic actions that happen in the play. And then I'll write a first draft. I will often then take it and share it. I'm part of a couple of different writing groups, and I will get feedback from other playwrights. And at that point, I will sometimes try to get it a staged reading, more often with a full-length play. Some of the shorter plays, I'll just start submitting them to contests and things. But usually with full-length plays, I will try to find a local theater that might be willing to give it a staged reading. And then I take the audience feedback and do a lot of rewrites and polish it, and then just keep sending it out places, and hopefully somebody gets interested. So I'm trying to remember when I heard about the Talking It Out Festival. It was a while ago. I mean, it was pre-pandemic, and everything back then just kind of like melds together in my mind now. So I don't know exactly when, but I think I read about it on through Play Submissions Helper, or one of those websites where calls for plays are posted. And what immediately attracted me to it was about mental health. And a number of my plays do have to do with mental health. So I knew this was something that I wanted to be part of. And to be honest, I can't remember whether this particular play was something I already had written at the time, or whether I got the idea for it because of this festival. Sometimes if I see calls for plays on a specific theme, it will inspire me to write a new play. So it may have been either one of those, but I knew I wanted to write a play that had to do with obsessive compulsive disorder. And so I wrote it, I submitted it, and it was selected, and that was really exciting. So for Obsession, my play, the idea came from my own life experiences with obsessive compulsive disorder. And I wanted to write something that would show OCD in kind of a realistic light. Because often when we see depictions of OCD in the media, in TV or films, it tends to be kind of misportrayed as something that's a little bit humorous, something that's like a personality quirk. I'm thinking about the movie As Good as It Gets, which kind of plays OCD for humor. A lot of times when people think about OCD, they think about people who are really super cleanly and who clean a lot and keep things in a certain order. And that can be part of OCD for some people, but OCD is a lot broader than that, and there are lots of different types. And so I wanted to tell a story of how OCD can manifest in a different way. So in my story, in my play, we have a grandmother who's dealing with these intrusive thoughts that she might accidentally harm her grandchild. And that's a manifestation of OCD that is, it's real, it's very difficult to deal with, and it's something that we don't hear about or see very often. So that's why I wanted to write it. Obsession is about a new grandmother. Her name is Rachel, and she has an adult daughter who has just had a baby. And the daughter wants her grandmother to help with the baby and hold the baby and watch the baby while the daughter goes out and has a break. And the grandmother, Rachel, is very hesitant to hold the baby. And it comes out that she has these thoughts that she might harm the baby. And OCD is associated with intrusive thoughts, unwanted thoughts, fears of losing control and doing something. So she's afraid of, if she holds the baby, maybe she'll drop the baby, or she'll accidentally crush the baby or hurt it in some way. And when she reveals this to her daughter doesn't understand and gets scared. And so then they have a confrontation, and I won't give too much away, but some of the truth about this form of OCD comes out, and they end up kind of better understanding each other. So what do I want people to get from this play? I think part of it is about being willing to express our vulnerabilities. So part of what the challenge is for my character Rachel is she has kept her OCD to herself for so long and hasn't let others in, and hasn't let her daughter in on it. And so during the course of the play, she does, and she becomes open. And that's a difficult thing to do because there's so much stigma attached to mental illness. And so I guess I'd want the audience to know that it's okay to struggle with mental illness, and it's okay to be vulnerable and to open up and to let others, family members, friends, in on what you're struggling with. So I got to do an interview with Anthony and some of the other playwrights who are involved in this festival, and the plays just sound really, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the other plays, and the plays in this part of the festival seem to all have to do with anxiety, different kinds of anxiety. So there's one that is about PTSD. There's one that's about somebody has a phobia involving a bonsai tree, which I think is such an interesting idea. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the idea of anxiety manifests in all of these other plays and learning something new. People should go and watch Talking It Out because you may learn something new about mental illness. You may come away with a different understanding about something that you thought you knew before. And you may be inspired to write yourself or to talk to your friends and family about mental health and mental illness. And seeing theater is just fun. And I'm glad that I wish it could be in person, but virtual theater is fun too. So I hope everybody comes and sees it. Well, first of all, theater needs our support right now, theater in all forms. The pandemic has been so difficult. I know around here in the San Francisco area, some small theaters have had to shut down, have had to give up their space that they used to rent. And anything that audience can do right now to support theater as things start opening up again is so, so important. For this theater festival in particular, having to do with mental health is really important right now. I know the pandemic has made it, I think it's kind of exacerbated mental health issues for a lot of people. People dealing with loneliness and with anxiety disorders in particular. And so, this is a festival to raise support and awareness for mental health issues. And for that reason, it's very important. I think local, as a playwright and as somebody who's a fairly new and emerging playwright, local theater has been really, really important in terms of giving me the opportunity to get my work out there. And so I think it needs our support for that reason. I've been so inspired, and I felt so supportive being part of the local theater community here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I think across the country, local theaters are important and need our support right now. They are, they're the voices of our communities. And they provide opportunities for writers, for directors, for actors, and they help form the fabric of our communities. So I think they need our support, like I said, now more than ever. So if you enjoyed this conversation about my play Obsession and the Talking It Out Festival, please come to the festival, and we look forward to seeing you there.